Turns out my husband wasn't just coding at work. He was debugging his marriage status to single and available. Hi there, I'm Hadley Preston. And last Tuesday, December 15th, I discovered that my 4-year marriage was apparently just a side project my husband Griffin forgot to mention on his professional resume. You know that sinking feeling when you realize you've been living a completely different reality than everyone else? Well, multiply that by discovering your spouse has been maintaining an entire alternate identity where you simply don't exist. Let me paint you the picture of my wonderfully delusional life up until 2:47 p.m. last Tuesday. Griffin Walsh, my 32-year-old programmer husband, works at this trendy tech startup called Innovate Tech here in Austin. Every morning, he'd kiss me goodbye, grab his MacBook, and head off to what I assumed was just another day of coding and team meetings. Meanwhile, I'm at my graphic design studio, creating logos for local businesses, occasionally stalking his company's Instagram because, hey, I like seeing my husband's workplace culture. That's when I saw it. A story posted by Amber, the perky 24-year-old receptionist with an alarming addiction to documenting every office moment. The video showed the break room during their weekly Single Mingles happy hour, apparently a tradition where all the unmarried employees grab drinks every Friday to support our bachelor colleagues in finding love. And there's my dear husband Griffin holding a craft beer and laughing as Madison, the stunning blonde marketing manager, playfully adjusts his collar while saying something that made him blush like a teenager. The caption? Our favorite bachelor Griffin getting some styling tips from Madison. When will this workaholic finally find someone special? Ladies, he's available. Complete with heart-eye emojis and hashtags like #single life, #office bachelor, #your team Griffin. I stared at my phone screen for exactly 17 seconds before the reality hit me like a freight train carrying a load of pure betrayal. My husband, the man who wears the wedding ring I picked out, who has our wedding photo as his phone wallpaper, who introduced me to his parents as the love of his life, was actively maintaining a bachelor persona at work. But wait, it gets better. Because apparently, I'm not just married to a liar. I'm married to Austin's most dedicated method actor. After some light Instagram detective work that would make the FBI proud, I discovered Griffin's elaborate performance had been running for months. His colleagues genuinely believed he was this lonely workaholic desperately seeking companionship. They'd organized blind dates for him, invited him to singles events, and even started an office group chat called Operation Find Griffin Love, where female employees would strategize about which coworker might be perfect for poor single Griffin. Madison, sweet summer child that she is, had been flirting hardcore with my husband under the completely reasonable assumption that he was available. Her recent Instagram posts showed them at various work events, always carefully cropped to look like potential couple photos. There was Griffin at the company picnic last month, with Madison's head on his shoulder during the group photo. Griffin at the tech conference in Dallas, where they apparently shared late-night drinks discussing marketing strategies at the hotel bar. Griffin at the Halloween office party, where Madison dressed as a cat, and he went as a computer programmer, which, honestly, required zero costume effort on his part. The more I scrolled, the angrier I got. Not just at Griffin, but at my own obliviousness. All those late nights at the office suddenly made perfect sense. All those team-building exercises that somehow never included spouses. All those times he'd come home talking about how supportive his colleagues were of his work-life balance, apparently because they thought he had no life to balance. And then, I found the smoking gun. A text screenshot Madison had posted on her private story, thinking only her close friends could see it. It was from Griffin, sent 3 days ago. Really enjoyed our conversation at lunch today. You're right. I should put myself out there more. Maybe you could show me some of those dating apps you mentioned? I trust your judgment on what makes a good profile. Dating apps. My husband was discussing dating app profiles with his coworker while I was at home meal prepping our dinners for the week, like the devoted wife I apparently wasn't supposed to be. That's when I noticed the event invitation in Madison's story highlights. Innovate Tech's annual holiday party, happening this Friday, December 18th, at that fancy rooftop venue downtown. The theme? Celebrating our hardworking singles, a tribute to the unmarried employees who dedicate extra time to the company family. Griffin was listed as the guest of honor. I sat in my car outside Target, holding my phone with hands that were definitely not shaking from rage, and started laughing. Not the gentle, amused laughter of someone who found something mildly funny. This was the slightly unhinged laughter of a woman who just realized she'd been cast as an extra in her own marriage. See, here's what Griffin didn't know about his allegedly clueless wife. 4 years of marriage to a programmer teaches you a few things about strategic thinking and careful planning. And after spending my mornings scrolling through months of evidence that my husband had been auditioning for Austin's Most Eligible Bachelor while I was home organizing our shared Netflix queue, I was ready to give a performance of my own. Friday night, December 18th. One fancy rooftop party. One unsuspecting husband about to have his carefully constructed alternate reality come crashing down faster than his startup's last product launch. I opened my camera app and started recording. Hey everyone, so I just discovered something pretty interesting about my husband's work situation, and I think tomorrow night is going to be absolutely unforgettable. Wednesday morning, December 16th. I woke up with the kind of clarity that only comes from having your entire worldview shattered and then reassembled into something far more interesting. Griffin was in the shower, probably practicing his lonely bachelor monologue for today's performance, while I lay in bed scrolling through more evidence of his award-worthy deception. Turns out, my husband wasn't just lying about being single. He'd created an entire backstory. According to his colleague Jake's LinkedIn post from last month, Griffin had shared during their team lunch that he was focusing on his career after a difficult breakup and wasn't ready to date seriously yet. A difficult breakup. I was apparently a difficult breakup that he was still living with, sharing a mortgage with, and had scheduled a dentist appointment for next Tuesday. But here's where Griffin's plan had a fatal flaw. He underestimated his wife's professional skills. See, being a graphic designer means I'm basically a detective with better software. I know how to research, how to piece together visual narratives, and most importantly, how to create presentations that leave lasting impressions. I spent Wednesday morning creating what I like to call Project Reality Check, a comprehensive investigation into my husband's double life. First stop, LinkedIn stalking every single Innovate Tech employee. Griffin's profile was a masterpiece of selective truth-telling. Under personal life, it simply said, passionate about work-life balance and personal growth. No mention of marriage, no mention of me, no mention of the fact that his idea of personal growth apparently involved deceiving everyone he worked with 8 hours a day. Madison's profile was even more revealing. Her recent activity showed she'd been liking and commenting on every single one of Griffin's professional posts with the enthusiasm of someone who definitely thought she was in the running for something more than career networking. Her comment on his recent post about learning to prioritize self-care was particularly nauseating. So proud of you for focusing on what makes you happy. The right person will appreciate all your hard work. The right person. I was sitting right here, appreciating his hard work by doing his laundry and meal prepping his lunches while he was out there collecting sympathy for being romantically unavailable. Thursday brought even more delicious discoveries. Amber, the social media-obsessed receptionist, had been documenting Griffin's journey to find love like it was her personal reality show project. Her Instagram highlights included a folder called Griffin's Glow Up, featuring photos of my husband at various office events, looking increasingly confident as his female colleagues showered him with attention and dating advice. There was Griffin at the company book club, where apparently the discussion of modern romance turned into a group therapy session about his fear of commitment after his last relationship. Griffin at the office charity run, where Madison had literally given him her phone number in case he wanted running tips, which, considering I've been his running partner for 3 years, was particularly insulting. Griffin at the quarterly team dinner, where he'd told everyone he was learning to cook for one again while I was at home. Cooking dinner for 2 like I had every night for 4 years. But my favorite discovery was a group text chain that Jake had accidentally screenshotted and posted in his story. The conversation, titled Operation Wingman, featured 5 of Griffin's male colleagues planning to help him get back out there by inviting eligible women to Friday's holiday party. They'd even created a game plan where different guys would casually mention Griffin's availability to various female guests throughout the evening. I screenshot everything. Every post, every comment, every accidental reveal of Griffin's elaborate performance. By Thursday evening, I had enough documentation to create a presentation that would make his startup's pitch deck look like amateur hour. That's when I decided on my outfit for Friday night. You know that red dress every woman has. The one that makes you feel like you could conquer small countries, or at least devastate lying husbands at corporate events. I had it dry cleaned. I booked a hair appointment. I even got my nails done in what the salon called Revenge Red, which felt appropriately on brand. But the real masterstroke was my research into Innovate Tech's guest list. See, Griffin had made one crucial error. He'd forgotten that his wife had designed the logo for the catering company they were using. A quick call to my contact there, and I had the complete rundown of Friday's event timeline. Cocktails at 7, dinner at 8, and at 9 o'clock, a special presentation honoring their most dedicated single employees, with Griffin receiving a humorous award for Austin's most eligible tech bachelor. Perfect timing for my own special presentation. Thursday night, Griffin came home excited about the company party, telling me all about how his colleagues had been so supportive of his career focus, and how grateful he was to work with people who understood his priorities. He even mentioned that he might be getting some kind of recognition at the event, though he was being modest about the details. "That's wonderful, honey," I said, helping him pick out his best shirt. "I'm so proud of how dedicated you are to your work relationships." He beamed at me like I'd just validated his entire existence. "You know what, Hadley? You're the best. I'm so lucky to have someone who supports my career ambitions." The irony was so thick I could have served it at the party as an appetizer. Friday afternoon, I did something I'd never done in our 4 years of marriage. I called in sick to work when I wasn't actually sick. Instead, I spent the day perfecting my appearance and mentally rehearsing my entrance. I even practiced my surprised expression in the bathroom mirror, the perfect blend of innocent confusion and delighted recognition that I'd need when I, unexpectedly, ran into Griffin's colleagues. At 6:30 p.m., I got in my car and headed downtown, my phone fully charged and ready to record what was about to become the most viewed video in Innovate Tech's company history. Griffin had left an hour earlier, telling me he'd probably be late since these work events always ran long. "Don't wait up," he'd said, kissing my forehead like the devoted husband he definitely wasn't about to be in approximately 2 hours. "Have fun with your colleagues," I'd replied, watching him walk out the door to what he thought was going to be his crowning moment as Austin's most sympathetic bachelor. Instead, it was about to become his most viral moment as Austin's most exposed fraud. Friday, December 18th, 7:32 p.m. The rooftop venue was everything Austin's tech scene aspired to be. Edison bulb lighting, reclaimed wood bars, and enough succulents to supply a small nursery. I could see the Innovate Tech crowd gathered around the main bar area, their company-branded name tags glinting under the string lights like little beacons of corporate networking. And there, in the center of it all, was my husband Griffin, holding court like he was auditioning for The Bachelor Austin Tech Edition. I positioned myself behind a decorative planter wall where I could observe without being seen, phone recording everything. Griffin was wearing the navy blazer I'd helped him pick out that morning, looking every inch the successful available bachelor his colleagues believed him to be. Madison was practically glued to his side, her hand resting on his arm as she laughed at something he'd said. The body language was unmistakable. This wasn't just friendly coworker interaction. This was full-on courtship mode. "Griffin, you clean up so nice," I heard Madison say as I moved closer, using other guests as cover. "I bet you're going to have your pick of eligible women tonight." My husband, my actual legally married husband, blushed and did this awkward head duck thing he only does when he's genuinely flattered. "You're too kind, Madison. I'm just trying to put myself out there more, you know. Take some chances. Take some chances." The man who needed 3 weeks to decide on a Netflix subscription plan was apparently ready to take romantic chances with his coworker while his wife was presumably at home watching said Netflix. That's when Jake appeared with 2 other guys I recognized from Griffin's LinkedIn connections. "Dude, Have you seen the guest list tonight? Sarah from accounting is here, and she's been asking about you. Plus, Amber invited her friend from the marketing agency, the redhead who was at the summer barbecue. Griffin actually looked nervous, like genuinely anxious about the romantic possibilities awaiting him. I don't know, guys. I'm still working on being more confident about dating again. Dating again. As if our marriage was some distant relationship that had ended instead of the very current situation where I'd packed his lunch that morning and reminded him to pick up milk on the way home. Griffin, sweetie, Madison jumped in, and I swear I felt my eye twitch at the sweetie. You've been single for what, 8 months now? It's time to stop punishing yourself for whatever happened with your ex. 8 months. My husband had been telling people we broke up 8 months ago. I did the math. That was right around the time he got promoted to senior developer and started working more closely with Madison's marketing team. Apparently, his career advancement came with a relationship status downgrade. I watched in fascination as Griffin's colleagues continued building up his confidence for his big night of romantic opportunities. Amber appeared with her phone out, naturally, documenting what she clearly thought was going to be Griffin's triumphant return to the dating scene. "Okay, everyone, gather around," she announced. "Pre-party photo with our guest of honor before all the ladies start fighting over him." They actually posed for a group photo labeled Team Griffin's Love Life. I took a screenshot of Amber posting it to her story with the caption, "When your work bestie is finally ready to find his person, tonight could be the night. Bachelor life? Team Griffin." But the real performance art came when Sarah from accounting approached our little group. She was cute, probably around 27, with the kind of genuine smile that made it clear she'd been looking forward to this interaction. "Griffin, I'm so glad you decided to come tonight. I know work events aren't really your scene." "Yeah, I'm trying to be more social," Griffin replied, and I watched him slip into what I now recognized as his bachelor persona. His voice got slightly deeper, his posture more relaxed, like he was channeling some idealized version of himself. "The guys have been telling me I need to get out more." "Well, I think that's great," Sarah said, touching his arm briefly. "You work so hard you deserve to have some fun. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime? I know this great place in South Austin." And my husband, the man who drinks the coffee I buy him every morning, smiled and said, "I'd really like that, Sarah. Let me get your number." They exchanged phones to input their contact information, while Madison watched with what I can only describe as territorial concern. Apparently, Griffin had multiple women at his workplace competing for his attention, and none of them knew they were flirting with someone's husband. That's when I noticed the PowerPoint presentation set up near the main stage area. A banner read, "Celebrating Innovate Tech's Most Dedicated Singles." And there was Griffin's photo prominently displayed alongside 4 other employees. The slideshow preview showed individual tribute pages for each honoree, and Griffin's page was titled, "Austin's Most Eligible Tech Bachelor, Griffin Walsh." His tribute included quotes from colleagues about his dedication to personal growth after heartbreak and his inspiring journey toward finding love again. There was even a timeline of his single life milestones, including joined the office book club to meet new people, and started attending company social events to expand his social circle. I was looking at a professional presentation celebrating my husband's fictional single status, complete with corporate graphics and inspirational quotes about his romantic availability. The program showed that Griffin's special recognition was scheduled for 9:15 p.m., right after dinner. Madison was listed as the presenter, which explained why she'd been extra attentive tonight. She was literally going to be introducing my husband to a room full of people as Austin's most eligible bachelor, while I sat 20 feet away recording every word. But here's what made everything perfect. I noticed the AV setup included a microphone system with open access. Anyone could request to speak during the presentation portion of the evening. 8:45 p.m., 15 minutes until showtime. Griffin was at the bar getting drinks for his admirers. Madison was practicing her introduction speech with Amber, and I was adjusting my red dress and checking my phone battery. Time to crash my husband's coming out party as Austin's most eligible fraud. I walked toward the registration table, my heels clicking confidently on the rooftop tiles. The volunteer checking people in looked up with a bright smile. "Hi there, Are you with Innovate Tech? Actually, I said, returning her smile with interest. I'm here to support my husband. Griffin Walsh? I believe he's being honored tonight. Her face went through approximately 6 different expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion, surprise, concern, and finally dawning realization that whatever was about to happen was going to be way more interesting than the standard corporate celebration she'd signed up for. Oh, she said slowly. Oh my. Indeed, I replied, accepting my name tag and watching Griffin laugh at something Madison whispered in his ear. This should be quite the presentation. 9:14 p.m. Madison had just taken the microphone and was beginning Griffin's introduction when I made my move. I positioned myself at the edge of the crowd, phone recording, waiting for the perfect moment to transform from invisible observer to the star of tonight's show. Good evening, everyone. Madison's voice rang out across the rooftop. Tonight we're celebrating our most dedicated single employees, and I'm thrilled to introduce someone truly special. Griffin Walsh has shown us all what it means to focus on personal growth after difficult times. Griffin stood near the stage, beaming with pride while Sarah, Amber, and 3 other female colleagues cheered him on. He actually waved at his admirers like he was accepting an Oscar for best performance in a fictional relationship status. Griffin joined our team 18 months ago, Madison continued, and despite going through a challenging breakup, he's channeled that energy into becoming not just an incredible developer, but an inspiration to anyone who's had to rebuild their life after love didn't work out. The crowd awed sympathetically. My husband soaked up their pity like a sponge absorbing lies and deception. He's shown us that being single doesn't mean being alone when you have an amazing work family. And tonight, we're hoping Austin's most eligible tech bachelor finally finds someone worthy of his beautiful heart. That was my cue. I raised my hand and called out in my sweetest voice, "Excuse me? Could I say something about Griffin?" Madison looked surprised but nodded. Of course. Are you a friend of his? I walked toward the microphone, my red dress catching the light perfectly as conversations died and heads turned. Griffin's face went through what I can only describe as the 5 stages of impending doom: denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and acceptance all compressed into about 4 seconds. Actually, I said, taking the microphone from Madison's suddenly limp hand, I'm his wife. The silence was so complete I could hear someone's drink glass hit the ground. Griffin's mouth opened and closed like a fish that had just realized it was no longer in water. Hi, everyone. I'm Hadley Preston Walsh, I continued brightly, as if I was introducing myself at a neighborhood barbecue instead of detonating my husband's entire social existence. I've been married to your most eligible bachelor for 4 wonderful years. I turned to face Griffin directly. Surprise, honey. I thought I'd come support you at your work event. Isn't that what wives do? The crowd was staring at Griffin like he'd just revealed he was actually 3 raccoons in a blazer. Madison's face had gone completely white, while Sarah from accounting looked like she was mentally reviewing every flirtatious conversation she'd had with my supposedly single husband. Hadley, Griffin finally managed to croak, his voice about 2 octaves higher than normal. How did you... Oh, you mean, how did I find out about your little bachelor act? I gestured to the banner behind me featuring his photo. Well, it turns out when you spend months telling your colleagues you're single, some of them post about it on social media. And when your wife is a graphic designer who knows how to research, she tends to find these things. I pulled out my phone and showed the crowd some of my favorite screenshots. Like this Instagram story about the single mingles happy hours, or this LinkedIn post where Jake talks about Griffin's difficult breakup, or my personal favorite, this group chat planning Griffin's romantic comeback tonight. Jake, who was standing near the bar, looked like he wanted to dissolve into the rooftop tiles. Several people were already pulling out their phones to record what was clearly becoming the most viral corporate event in Austin history. But wait, there's more, I continued, channeling my inner infomercial host. Madison, sweetie, I have to ask, when Griffin told you he was learning to cook for one, did he mention that I've been meal prepping his lunches every Sunday for the past 4 years? Or when he said he was working on his dating app profile, did he clarify that he was doing this while wearing the wedding ring I'm currently staring at on his finger? Madison looked at Griffin's left hand like she was seeing it for the first time, which, considering how effectively he'd been hiding his marriage, she probably was. "Griffin," she said slowly, her voice carrying the kind of hurt that comes from realizing you've been played. "You're actually married." "Madison, I can explain," Griffin started, but I cut him off. "Oh, please let me explain," I said cheerfully. "See, apparently my husband decided that being married was interfering with his workplace social life. So he created this whole tragic backstory about being heartbroken and single, which made all of you wonderful people want to take care of him and set him up with dates." I gestured to Sarah, who was backing away from Griffin like he had suddenly sprouted a second head. "Sarah, honey, about that coffee date. I hate to break it to you, but Griffin already has someone to grab coffee with every morning. Me, in our kitchen, in our house, that we bought together." The crowd was eating this up. Phones were definitely recording now, and I could see several people frantically texting what was undoubtedly going to be the juiciest workplace gossip Austin had seen all year. "The really beautiful part," I continued, "is that Griffin was so committed to this performance that he actually accepted an award for being Austin's most eligible bachelor. While married. To me. Who does his laundry?" Griffin finally found his voice. "Hadley, you're embarrassing yourself. This isn't the place." "Oh, I'm embarrassing myself." I laughed. And it wasn't my usual, polite, social laugh. This was the laugh of a woman who had spent 3 days discovering just how elaborate her husband's deception had been. "Griffin, you literally just accepted recognition for being single while your wife was sitting at home organizing our shared calendar. But please, tell me more about appropriate behavior." That's when Amber, bless her social media-obsessed heart, stepped forward with her phone still recording. "Wait, so all those times we were trying to set Griffin up on dates, he was going home to his wife?" "Every single time," I confirmed. "In fact, Griffin, remember last month when you came home late because of that team-building exercise? I made you a plate and kept it warm in the oven. Turns out you were at Jake's bachelor party planning session, discussing your romantic prospects." Jake made a sound like a deflating balloon. The crowd was buzzing now, pieces of Griffin's elaborate lie clicking into place for everyone who'd been involved in his fictional single life. I could see the exact moment when each person realized how thoroughly they'd been deceived. "So," I said, wrapping up my impromptu presentation, "I just wanted to clear up any confusion about Griffin's availability. He's very much taken by me, his wife. Who will be here to pick him up after every work event for the foreseeable future?" I handed the microphone back to Madison, who was still staring at Griffin like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Enjoy the rest of your party, everyone. And Griffin?" I smiled at my husband, who looked like he was considering whether jumping off the rooftop would be less painful than facing the aftermath of this moment. "We need to talk." The ride home was the kind of silent that makes you appreciate how much noise traffic usually makes. Griffin sat in the passenger seat, because obviously I wasn't letting him drive after his Oscar-worthy performance, staring at his phone like it might spontaneously combust, which, considering the number of notifications flooding in, wasn't entirely impossible. "Hadley," he finally said as we pulled into our driveway, "I can explain everything." "Oh, can you?" I turned off the engine and faced him. "Because I've spent the last hour watching your colleagues' faces as they realized they'd been extras in your personal fiction novel." Madison looked like someone had told her Santa Claus was actually a used car salesman. The fallout had been immediate and spectacular. Within minutes of my impromptu presentation, Dear Griffingate was trending on Austin Tech Twitter. Amber, true to her social media addiction, had live-streamed the entire revelation to her Instagram followers, who'd screen recorded and shared it faster than Griffin's credibility disappeared. Madison had approached me after the crowd dispersed, her perfectly applied makeup slightly smudged from what I suspected were tears of humiliation. "Hadley, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. He showed us photos on his phone of you two, but he said you were his ex-girlfriend from college." Ex-girlfriend from college. Griffin had been using our actual relationship photos as props in his elaborate single-man performance. The audacity was almost artistic. "Madison, honey," I'd told her, "you're not the problem here. You're actually pretty awesome, and any guy who's genuinely single would be lucky to have your attention." The problem is, my husband decided to cosplay as available while enjoying all the benefits of married life. By Saturday morning, the video had been shared in every Austin Tech group chat, forwarded to every startup Slack channel, and somehow made it onto TikTok with the soundbite, "I'm his wife," remixed into a dance trend. Griffin's phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages from colleagues, friends, and apparently several people from his college who'd seen the video and wanted to know if this was the same Griffin they remembered as already weird about commitment issues. The professional consequences came swift and merciless. Monday morning brought a very awkward conversation with HR about workplace relationship transparency and creating hostile environments through deception. Turns out, when you spend months accepting romantic attention from colleagues under false pretenses, it creates what corporate lawyers call a problematic workplace dynamic. Madison transferred to the Dallas office within 2 weeks. Sarah from accounting now avoids eye contact with Griffin entirely. Jake started eating lunch at his desk instead of joining the group outings where he'd previously served as Griffin's wingman. The office book club Griffin had joined to meet people quietly removed him from their group chat. But the real masterpiece was Griffin's performance review, where his manager noted concerns about his authenticity and trustworthiness in team environments. Apparently, when your colleagues can't trust you to be honest about basic biographical information, they start questioning your reliability on actual work projects. As for our marriage, well, that required some renegotiation. Griffin spent approximately 6 weeks sleeping on our couch while we worked through what he called his temporary lapse in judgment and what I called 4 years of taking your wife for granted while maintaining a backup plan. Couples therapy was illuminating. Our counselor, Dr. Patricia Chen, had the kind of professional poker face that made it impossible to tell if she was impressed by Griffin's elaborate deception or planning to use our sessions as case study material for future clients. "Griffin," she'd asked during our 3rd session, "what need was this alternative identity fulfilling for you?" "I guess I missed feeling appreciated. Like, at home, Hadley and I were just routine. But at work, people thought I was interesting. So you felt more valued when people believed you were available," Dr. Chen noted, "than when they knew you were committed." The breakthrough came when Griffin realized he'd been treating our marriage like a comfortable old sweater. Nice to have, but nothing you'd show off to impress people. Meanwhile, he'd been treating his fake single status like a designer outfit he only wore for special occasions. 6 months later, Griffin's colleagues still call him Married Griffin, like it's his full legal name. He brings me to every single work event now, probably because his credibility requires external verification. Madison sends me holiday cards from Dallas with notes like, "Hope you're both doing well," because apparently being deceived by someone's husband bonds you to his wife in weird ways. The funniest part? Griffin's actually become a better husband since his public humiliation. Turns out, when you can no longer maintain the fantasy that you're Austin's most eligible bachelor, you start appreciating the woman who's been putting up with your actual personality for 4 years. And me? I learned that sometimes the best way to save your marriage is to publicly destroy your husband's ego in front of his entire professional network. As I tell people now, marriage is all about supporting each other's dreams. I just never realized Griffin's dream was to be single. Some fantasies are worth protecting. Others are worth live streaming their destruction.